Okay, so today we were talking about predominant harmonies, and specifically we worked on the 4 chord. So to get into this topic, I'm going to set up a staff for my progression in C major, and I'll do 3 measures. Okay, the last of which is going to end on Do. Now the predominant comes at the end of the phrase. So we've got our tonic stuff going until here, say, and then on beat 3 of measure 2, I'm going to use my 4 chord, going to my 5, going to my 1. So this is now predominant to the dominant to the tonic. So that's the end of the whole phrase model. It happens quickly, and the sort of tonic progression stuff is the longest portion of the phrase. But what I want to point your attention to is the last, well, the last chord of the tonic portion going to the predominant 4 chord, going to the dominant 5 chord. Okay, so this is sort of the 3 chord progression I'm focusing on. The tonic progression from the beginning is material from the last few classes. So I can do like a 1 to a 5-6-5 to a 1 to a 5-4-3 to a 1. And notice that I end up on beat 1 of my second measure with a 1 chord. And I have my 4 chord on beat 3 of that same measure. So I can't use another 5 chord in between here. I have to use another tonic chord, and that's why I've chosen to use a 1-6. I just keep the same tonic root, but I alter the inversion to just keep the momentum going in the progression. So I'm starting off on my 1-6. Let's say I have this voicing. And again, this doesn't matter, it's completely interchangeable. But for these 3 chords, going from the 1-6 to the 4 to the 5, I can have my tenor line stay on Do and then drop to T. That is one of my possible melodies. My alto will go to double the root of the 4 chord and then drop down to the D for the 5 triad. That's another one of the possible melodies. And my soprano, will occupy the 3rd of the 4 chord by jumping down from Do to La, and then we'll go to the double the root of the 5 chord. So Do for La down to Sol. Okay, those are your 3 melodies for this progression. And again, they're completely interchangeable. Sol, Fa, Re can happen in the soprano. Do, Do, Ti can happen in the soprano. And alto and tenor can take any one of these 3 melodies as long as they're in counterpoint with the other 2. Okay, this is important to memorize these melodies. Now, for the ending of this, I'm going to just look at this 5-1 and treat it as the latter part of a 1-5-1 progression. So I remember that Ti goes to Do in that, I remember Re goes to Mi in that, and Sol stays. And this is an IAC for the cadence. So your melodic possibilities with a 1-6-4-5 progression, that's your last tonic to the predominant to the dominant, are Do, Do, Ti, Sol, Fa, Re, and Do, La, Sol. Now I'm going to show you what happens if we go from a 1-6 to a 4 to a 5-7. So I can set up the same kind of a staff for the progression, and then I'll just keep the same bass. Okay, all this stuff is the same from above, but we're landing now on a 5-7. So 1-6-4-5-7. My tenor can stay on Do, Do, Ti. My alto can now go to Sol to Fa and remain on Fa, because again, I want to make the 7th of the 5-7 chord. So that's new. So I'll make that green. That's the only difference. And then the soprano will do the same thing that it did before. Do, la, sol. Again, these three upper voices are completely interchangeable. Just the difference is the voice that has sol, fa, in this case the alto, when it goes to the 5/7, will stay on fa. Okay. And now we would resolve this progression. So do will drop to sol. Sol will drop to do, sorry. Ti in the tenor will go to do. Fa in the alto will go to mi. And sol in the soprano will stay. And that's another IAC. Okay, so there's not really that much difference between these two progressions. It's just that the sol, fa, re melody in orange in the first progression has now become sol, fa, fa, green in the second. Let's take a look now at going from a root position 1 chord to the 4 chord. So we'll again pretend that all this is the same as before, but now I want to go 1, 4, 5, 1. So I'll keep the same alto and tenor line, but now my bass is on do, so my soprano will take the mi. So I'll have the same do, do, ti line in my tenor. But now I get to have different lines in my alto and soprano. Sol, la, sol becomes my alto. And mi, fa, re becomes my soprano. And again, this progression is tonic, predominant, dominant, the end of the phrase. Now for the last thing we want to do is cadence. So the 5-1 there, it's like the latter part of a 1-5-1. So ti goes to do, so stays, re goes to mi, and there you got another IAC. One more variation on this is if we have the root position tonic, go to the 4 chord, and then go to a 5/7. So all this is the same. 1, 4, 5/7, 1. Okay, I'll have the same voicing as before. So tenor does do, do, ti, just like before. Alto will go sol, la, sol, just like before. And now my soprano, because we're going to 5/7, can remain on the fa. Okay, and I'll do blue for that. That stays the same. Mi, fa, fa. Okay, so the only difference now is that the soprano, instead of going mi, fa, re from the previous progression, goes mi, fa, fa and stays there. And so you have an incomplete 5/7 chord. That's going to resolve just like before. So the 5/7 to the 1, fa goes to mi, ti will go to do, so that's the leading tone, and sol can stay. And that is another IAC. So those are really your 4 possibilities in going from a 1 to a 4 to a 5 of some kind, right? You can either go to from a root position 1 to a 4 to a 5, or to a 5/7, or you can go from a first inversion 1 to a 4 to a 5, or to a 5/7. So these are all of the possible melodies that come up with the 1-4-5 progression at the end of a phrase. Now if we tried to do something in E major, a progression like this, here's where I have my 1, 6, 4, 5, 7 progression implied by the figures. Okay, the very last part. So here I can have maybe this kind of a voicing, okay, in my first chord. And I notice that this is the 1, 4, 3, 1, 6, 1, 5, 4, 3, 1, 6 progression. So that I remember from before is do, ti, do, sol, 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 and then mi, fa, sol. This makes parallel tenths with the bass. Now I'm in another position to do a tonic prolongation progression. I'm starting on the 1, 6, but I go to a 5, 6, 5 into a 1. So my do in the tenor is going to have to go to re to counterpoint with the bass's ti, do. I have two sols, one in the soprano, one in the alto. So the alto one can stay on sol the whole time, and then my soprano can go down to fa and to mi. Now I'm on my 1 chord, and I'm going to go to a 1, 6. So to do that, I just take the common tones, and then I flip my bass and my soprano voices, because the soprano had the third previously, and now it's going to have the root because the bass is going from the root to the third. So I just swap those two voices. And now I'm set up to do my predominant chord. So I can have my, I'll do do, do, ti, do in my soprano, sol, fa, re in my alto, and then the do, la, sol in my tenor. Oops, I forgot I wanted a 5, 7, so my sol, fa, fa is going to be in my alto. Fa will resolve to mi, and sol in the tenor will stay. And there you have a beautiful progression using a predominant by the end of it. And let me just neaten this up. So we're in E major, 1, 5, 4, 3, 1, 6, 5, 6, 5, 1, 1, 6, 4, 5, 7, 1, and that is a PAC. My tonic prolongation has lasted until the 1, 6 chord. Then I go to my predominant 4 chord, my dominant, and my tonic for the end of the phrase model.